Never done that before. You ever done that before, where you hit the button and the bloody reactions all come up all over the screen?
No.
No one. Anyway. Yes. I suppose we should really start things. Ray looks really interested, as usual. You right there, Ray? Alright, son. A bit distracted. Your hair looks lovely though, Ray. I'm not going to lie. You're giving us a good view of it there. Top of your kin head. That. Worry about you, Ray. I do. You're distracted. Anyway. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God, it's on the bits. Ladies and gentlemen.
He's drinking them.
Actually, guys, before we start the show, I do have something that I should probably tell you.
Hey, I have a story.
Oh my God. Wait a minute, Ray.
Yeah. No.
Tell us all about it, Ray.
So there was this dude, he's like really into arm wrestling. Like really into arm wrestling. He like lives and breathes arm wrestling. He's thinking about making this trip, you know, about going, I don't know, from all places to Dubai. And he's like, I should go to Dubai. So he contacts some guys, like known guys, like, arm wrestlers. And he's like, I'm going to go to Dubai. So he packs his bags and everything. And
oh my God, he's locked up.
And so he does.
You locked up, Ray?
Oh.
We're losing right at the punchline.
Go again, mate. It's all right, mate. It's all right. Go again, Ray.
Wait a second. Maybe it's taking my phones. Let's check this like this. Okay. So there's this dude. He's an arm wrestler. He wants to arm wrestle on a warmest place on the planet. So he thinks about going to Dubai. And to get to Dubai, you need to pack and be ready and have a nice haircut and do a COVID test. So before going to Dubai, he needs to do a COVID test. He does his COVID test, and COVID test comes back positive. So now he's stuck at home for 2 weeks. He needs to sit at home, do nothing. And like all the money went into airplane tickets and hotels, and he will not get the money back. But he has Western Survivor jerky to keep him going.
Oh.
Mate, right. He could have died. Oh! And right at that point, could have died. No. Western Survivor. Mate, have you done the pick and bits there, mate? Because I'll tell you what. My God. Even the pussy.
Even the pussy is crazy for that.
My God. Even the pussy.
Even the pussy is crazy for that shit.
Well, we're going to get things going, bring things onto a serious note, and start the show. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Fix. Myself, Neil, pick up with you in the mother fluffing house, and as usual, I'm joined by our resident hosts. We'll start with Ray. Rolly Royce the voice. Liepins. Orbing it up to the max. We'll get more of that later. I'm going to start with the very sexy Mr. Paul Linn, who actually on my screen. You're filling in one side of the screen there, mate. Remember next time to get that tighter shirt. And last but by no means least, the Ginger Ninja, the man from down under, Blue Bowen.
Always in trouble. Always in trouble.
Right, your wrist come on a bit there, right?
My wrist, did you say?
Yep. look bigger.
It depends on which angle I hold it on. Like, it's actually gone up an inch and a half since I started the sport. And I know that for a fact because I have a metal clasp watch that I used to wear prior to starting the sport. And that internal diameter measures, just a bit above 7 inches. And now I'm at 8.6 inches on the wrist. So there you go.
That's pretty significant measurements there. I always talk to my missus about the 8.5 inches, and she thinks, let's get. For those of you who didn't notice, at the start of the show there, me and the lads have a bit of a affiliation with the best beef jerky in the world. Western Survivor, ladies and gentlemen. Best beef jerky in the world. Ray may have died. Having supply of beef jerky, but hey, seriously, mate, it's supposed to be in Dubai. What the fluff? How did you never go out? It's just you and the cat.
I don't know. I don't know. No idea.
You know.
I felt shitty for the past week, at least. So I didn't feel very good on Monday, so I stayed home. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. On Thursday, I went to the practice. And I don't know if I
COVID.
Yeah, but for me it was just like no symptoms like COVID symptoms. I just like no coughing, no sneezing, nothing. My head felt funny, and I'm like, I'm gonna stay at home because I can, and I will isolate myself. So because I have to do the test, and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna do one last table practice. I go there, I feel fine. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Well, I didn't feel that good next days. My eyes went a little bit glossy, and some headaches, some feeling like there's something deep, right here in the throat. But
and I'm sure you're used to it.
I put those words together when I said it. It's too late for that. But yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. But yeah, I have to. The trip fell off, and we have to sit home and isolate my girlfriend. And she did a test, came back negative. For me, it was positive. Like.
I mean, when you say the trip is off, are we talking just postponed, though, mate? You're still.
Yeah. We will go on January. I hope so. Okay. I will sit through my quarantine. I will do antibodies test to figure out can I get it again. What's the ideas, and pretty safe. But yeah. It's I felt like I was stabbed in the heart when they told me on a day that I have to go to Norway that don't come. I'm like I prepared, and it felt the same this time, and I'm like, damn you, COVID. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it brings up a good point. I just wrote an article about this sort of nature stuff where last minute events just get cancelled at the moment, and I feel like it's having to change the entire scene of the way we plan for future arm wrestling events. I know we see some small stuff getting away. TAL's doing really well, but it seems like it's so ridiculously impossible to actually plan for an event. So Ray, you've copped 2 of them in a row.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's the one thing. It's nice to see that you didn't, take any shortcomings with your hair, though, right? And you got out there and got that done, despite having a potentially killer virus. You can't make it. And you clearly were in there 20 minutes ago, because that hair is pretty perfect. So, Ryan's been coming on this show now for 7 months. Look, he's never had.
No filter for that.
I'm just trying to desperately fill the gap in my beard. That's a big goal of mine. I think my dad didn't have a full beard till he was 40, so I think I'm following his footsteps. I'm 35 now. So.
Yeah,
I'm way behind you.
Because you're ginger though, right? You can get away with it. It doesn't really stand out. If it was really dark colour, it'd really stand out.
Patchy ginger's all right. I just say auditioning Braveheart or something.
So, just on a a little bit of a development spin. I was on the phone to Monster Michael Todd last night. Now, we talked about many things, and we'll get into those because I'd love to hear your feedback, respectively, on Jeff Frank's gig at TAL. Obviously, some good stuff to talk about there. But one of the things that Mike was talking about was the fact that he may be moving to Dubai.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Wow. Massive change. But within that discussion, the other thing that was really, really prominent there was that he, to pick up on what Ryan was just saying, is angling hard for a private match, not like a super match format where, it's all whistles and bells and lights, but a private match in Dubai with Levan Saganashvili. And I mean, the dude is pushing on hard. He really wants that to happen in some way, shape or form. And it's quite interesting because, as everybody knows, I would be the biggest supporter of matches like that and of that magnitude really happening in the World Arm Wrestling League, Professional Arm Wrestling League, the big organisations. However, it's not possible right now to be able to fulfil that. And there's always that argument that because Levan is with the Professional Arm Wrestling League, Mike is with the World Arm Wrestling League, as am I, that may not be possible anyway because of other blocks. But if you were to have a match of sorts between Michael Todd and Levan Saganashvili, what I wanted to ask you guys is how legit is that? Because for me, I'd be, if I'm not talking about they both pull 20 guys and then, have 5 minutes with Khaled and then pull. I'm talking about they show up, they're both in Dubai and they pull fresh. I'd love to see it. In fact, if it was possible, I'd love to bloody be there. It's unlikely, but
Neil, I love it. I think it's a good thing for the climate we're in right now. As I touched on, I wrote an article about this a couple of days ago, and Michael rang me as well when he was weighing up his options to go to Dubai. I spoke to him for about an hour and a half about whether he thinks whether or not it would be valid for him financially as a YouTuber to be able to do this and make it possible. And we talked about the projections of earnings and all that sort of stuff. What goes on, and the focus of my article talked about exactly this, that given right now the WAL and the PAL cannot for themselves or for athletes actually provide a guarantee that a season's going to take place. No matter how much intent they have, at the 11th hour, an event can fall over. Like it's done for so many of us. And because of that, it's simply for both athletes and promoters, we're shooting ourselves in the foot if we don't evolve. And I think during this COVID period, and we don't know how long it's going to go for, 2021, there's no guarantee that it's going to be any better. I think Michael going to Dubai is a great move for him personally. I think all athletes should be taking charge of their own personal branding value right now, and Michael's doing that really well. And I think, honestly, I would love to see organisations like the WA and PAL actually get behind a match that is private like that. So it's not in a garage, but have it on the WAL and the PAL YouTube channels. Have them equally have distribution rights. And to be honest, that keeps momentum of both leagues going. And to be honest, it will make a decent amount of money. They can probably sell some third-party sponsors, all that sort of stuff. And it gives fans and arm wrestlers what they want most, which is matches that actually matter. And we're all sick of talking about how would this guy go against Khaled or how would this guy go against that guy. We'd like to see some real matches. It'd be great.
See, this is the. I want to throw some questions out to people here. Okay, play devil's advocate a little bit. You make a point there, Ryan, about every arm wrestler should take control of their own value right now and their own brand. How many have a brand? Question one. Is there a brand in it? How many arm wrestlers have a brand? Really?
Not enough.
Before you have a brand,
right.
why have you got a brand? That's my question, because at the moment I see I agree with a lot of the sentiment within the statement and within the article, but I think it's easy to forget that a lot of arm wrestlers don't actually have a brand yet.
Now is the absolute best time to establish a brand. It's hard to establish a brand. It really takes time. It takes takes years of consistent content to establish a brand. But right now, we still all know who, like if I say, let's say Jordan Still. Jordan Still doesn't maintain a YouTube channel, but we know he's a badass, he's a WAL regular, that sort of stuff. He just had a great turnout at the CAL. There's nothing stopping Jordan from featuring his own travels and his own call-outs and all that. Like even if it doesn't feel natural.
Let me just stop you there, Ryan.
Yeah.
Because you made a great point. A lot of the chat has been around the organisation, World Arm Wrestling League, blocking people, preventing people, stopping people. Jordan Sill is on the WAL roster. He pulled at weekend in the TAL. He won.
Yep.
Where's the WAL blocking him?
Yeah, so the WAL isn't blocking at the moment. Obviously, they're from my understanding, they're happy to have athletes compete, as long as it's not too close to what their prepared season is going to be. Like, I know that the whole Todd Hutchins Lock on a Dare match was earmarked in the CAL for April. That hasn't been approved by WAL because they're hoping to have a season by then. But if they don't have a season by then, they'll probably approve it. So I know that the organizations aren't probably blocking athletes. They're only probably struggling to actually line up that inter-league match like the Michael Todd.
That one-off dream match. But, see, and this isn't meant at you, Ryan. I just want to be clear on that. It isn't. This is sort of a general point of consideration for everyone, and I'd like to get Ray's feedback. I'd like to get Paul's feedback, and obviously in the comments as well. I am always a little confused by the comments where there seems to be that one person, maybe a very prominent person, will make a statement which sometimes I don't think is necessarily thought through as well as it could be, or as in detail as it could be. And everybody jumps on board with that same perception. The World Arm Wrestling League, the Professional Arm Wrestling League, are actually no different this year to everybody else. For example, they were nothing to do with Ray's match against Frode Hogeland, and at the 11th hour, Mother Fluffer was on the way to the airport, the match was stopped. And I think sometimes it's easy to try and everybody jumps on a bandwagon where we're knocking lumps out of PAL, we're knocking lumps out of WAL because PAL had to cancel the top 8, World Arm Wrestling League had to cancel their season. I think we've got to be fair, guys, and just take a breather and think to ourselves, wait a minute, are these guys the big bad wolf, or are they actually just an entity that's doing what they do to support arm wrestling? I don't see that they are intrinsically linked to most arm wrestlers. That's the bit that frustrates me when I read this, because I do know who's on the PAL roster, who's on the WAL roster. I do know the nuances of all the disparate elements that go to make up that contractual negotiation. And yet, I also know that literally 98% of arm wrestlers in the world aren't on those rosters, aren't restricted, and still aren't doing a goddamn thing about it. Yeah. They're not out there building their brand.
For me, Neil, what I want to say about the WAPAL is that I think they, as an individual entity, have an opportunity. I think they're small enough organisations just for their own value. The fact that they haven't been able to get a season, they should be trying to sign. If I was in control of the WAL, I'd be looking to just sign individual event contracts right now. And as I said, individual match for 2 people. That's it. Don't try to get a card. Just get 2 people and make it low budget. Instead of the big thing, like right now, the world knows that YouTube level production is all we're going to get. So the WAL could do a little tour of individual matches going on, even if it was just within their own roster. And I think that would be
not, in some respects, fly in the face of what the actual athletes themselves are trying to achieve? From my experience of speaking to these guys, and I'm not judging them or saying rightly or wrongly, what I'm saying is that in some respects they would think, okay, I want to do this, and also just park that thought that I just made there for a second, and also think about the sort of difference in perception from the athlete's mind in this one. Because speaking to Mike, this one wasn't really about necessarily the money, i.e. somebody coming to him and saying, okay, I'm going to give you an amount of money to arm wrestle this man, and he will get an amount of money to arm wrestle this man. He sort of sees that as an opportunity in that if he's managing that match or the footage of that match, then views that it generates are directly to him with no other involvement. it isn't in breach of his contract, in his opinion, and particularly if it wasn't really an organised match. So, in other words, it wasn't under WAL rules, PAL rules, on an official table which is sanctioned by WAL or PAL, and that's how they see they're getting around it. So it's kind of like if you're saying to the World Arm Wrestling League or the Professional Arm Wrestling League, look, guys, support these guys, back these guys. Do you know what? I'm not sure Michael and Levan would want to be backed and want to be supported. I think they're kind of like, for this one instance, guys, step back. I've got this. I want you to just release the leash a little and let me arm wrestle, because this isn't necessarily about the money for me. This is that I need to know that one time in my life I was the very best at this, and I can't keep this going forever, particularly in the case of Mike, because, you know, he's like 47 years old.
That's the interesting part. That's where the conundrum comes in, though. And the most interesting part about Ryan's article, I think, was the idea that, hey, why don't the leagues get involved in these independent, like, matches? So it's almost like a contrast. Like, we're saying, okay, the athlete, as an athlete, you can potentially control your own matches, go have them in a garage or whatever setting you want to have. But in reality, if the leagues were to get involved, it takes away that illegitimacy of doing something in a garage. If you add the rules, if you add the logos, if you add the perception of either the PAL or the WAL sanctioning that match, there's no real, like, dispute. Like, you see Devin and Michael pull in a garage, and everybody goes, it's practice, and then everybody has a crazy opinion. But if you put the league stamp on it, now you get legitimacy. But the flip side is maybe you lose the revenue. But I would think in this case for Michael, it sounds like, you know, he's really wanting to do it to prove his worth and prove his ability. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would think that he would get more money. He's getting more money from the WAL for having a match like that than he would get in YouTube revenue. But I don't know for sure. Ryan, you can answer that.
He's trying to carve out that brand niche that Ryan has correctly alluded to. Ryan is all over the brand thing because, with the greatest of respect, Ryan, you are a professional arm wrestler and you are a professional entity on social media. That is your job. That is what you do in all of those areas. Not everybody is in that same situation, neither in terms of the knowledge and expertise or their ability to commit that time to do that. So if you're in a situation where you don't have a brand because you haven't achieved anything, you're not on the World Arm Wrestling League roster, and make no mistake about it, Michael Todd's wins over Devon Larratt, or win over Devon Larratt in the World Arm Wrestling League, Devon Larratt's win over Michael Todd in Arm Wars, and the notoriety and mass publicity that those things got at a time, in one instance before YouTube and latterly on YouTube and other platforms, boosted their notoriety. In the case of Devon, again, notoriety boosted by a myriad of matches and other things which came on the back of that, like the match with Thor, or the practice session with Thor. All of those elements came together to build a brand which he could then project forward, and it cascades and it snowballs. For a lot of the people out there, they're just, that's night and day difference. If I say to a good arm wrestler, if I go to someone like Morozov, or, you know, and I mention that name outside anywhere, if I go over there and I go, Raimonds Antonovics, I know he's a great arm wrestler, you know he's a great arm wrestler, Ray knows he's a great arm wrestler, Paul knows he's a great arm wrestler. I guarantee you, 90% of the people who are on the fringes of the sport don't even know who the mother fluffer is. They could walk, he could be standing in a chip shop right next to him and they wouldn't know who he is. That's the point. There is no brand yet, so you sort of need that recognition to then get the brand going.
It's interesting. I don't want to get into I love the entrepreneur sort of lifestyle of building a brand. It's a big passion of mine. And for me, when I hear what you're saying about it's kind of like you need money to make money, you need brand to have brand, all that sort of stuff. There is never a better time to start than right now, honestly. And
I agree, mate.
The simple way of starting is simply to document your story as opposed to try to come up with content. When people are trying to think, hey, what do I need to come up with? You'll struggle. You'll run out. You'll feel like an idiot and you'll pack up. But if you just document whatever it is you're doing, if you say, let's say you are a low-level arm wrestler and say, hey, I want to be a state champ, you can document that. And I started at that level. I started at
exactly that. Yeah.
And I just followed my journey. If I'm training, I put that out. If I'm competing, I put that out. If I'm reacting to something in the world, I put that out. But right now, everyone's best opportunity is right now to establish a brand. And even if you don't have one, like I said, I wanted to touch on the legitimacy of any matches that do happen privately. Paul, you talked about it before. It gets more if the leagues are involved. The other way to make it more legitimate is if there's money on the table, and even if it's just privately between you and the other guy. I know arm wrestlers like to bet among each other, and I know it's not particularly a wealthy sport, so a lot of people can't really do it. But if I talked about it in the article. If I want to be the middleweight world champion, and I travel to Ukraine and put $5,000 on the table and ask Rustam Babayev for a match, I'm sure he'd take it, even if it is in his garage. He'd be like, yeah, I'll take your $5,000, no worries. But that makes it, in the eyes of the viewers, a legitimate match. It means when there's $5,000 genuinely on the table, both people are going to try their genuine best, and whatever happens in that result is going to have more weight than if there was no money. Money definitely helps the legitimacy, in my opinion.
Here's my next question then. And number one, I agree with everything you said there. Okay, and I also think that if you could do yourself one favour, it would be that you probably haven't sort of weaponized your experience.
Yep.
And got out. You can give so many people tuition in that. You do seminars on how to achieve what you've just described. Because you've bloody done it. And
I thought about it, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if
that's a good point, man.
You put it in Australia. I mean, arm wrestling world is saying taking Australia as a joke anyway. They still don't accept Australia as a leading arm wrestling nation. So let's be honest here. If you're in Australia, and so you're from a second-rate bum nation in the minds of so many people, and yet it didn't stop. You did it. You created a brand, which is a significant brand. You've gone out there and beaten solid quality arm wrestlers and documented it and got to a situation where, whether they love you or hate you, you've talked yourself into matches and continue to do so. So you're very, very knowledgeable in that respect.
Right.
The other thing is, I wanted to ask you, Ryan, and Ray, I want to bring you on this as well, because you're not insignificant in terms of your social media presence yourself. Does the legitimacy of the match actually matter a jot? Because Schoolboy got really famous by beating dudes that nobody had seen, heard of, people in Times Square. And he's massive. So how much is about legitimacy? The other week, PAL put a video out on YouTube, knocking 7 bells out of Schoolboy and saying that we've got loads of guys here, like Margaret, can kick his head in. Which, yes, he can. But does anybody care? Schoolboy's still ripping views.
That video is deleted now.
Well, it depends on what your goal is. There are two separate columns that we're establishing. One is it your professional career? Are you making enough money to call it and allocate your time to it? And then the other one is, are you legitimately an arm wrestler that is respected among arm wrestlers as a certain level? So they're probably going to rise together. Like for me, my brand grows faster than my arm wrestling ability, and as my arm wrestling ability came up, it pushed this up again more, and it's getting easier for me. The better I become as an arm wrestler, the easier it is to get even more brand. So they do run in parallel, but you don't necessarily need one or the other to be able to achieve it. So yeah.
So here's a question directly at Ray, because you're nearest to this, mate. That sort of Eastern European, and you're Russian speaking, which is one of the reasons I asked this, because you know what a lot of the conversations are that myself, Paul, and Ryan are party to. If you've got a situation where you are appealing to the purest arm wrestler, okay? Now, for me personally, the powerhouse of global arm wrestling, in terms of legitimate, top-class arm wrestlers, is Eastern Europe. I don't mean that disrespectfully. In my experience, when I wanted to go out and get tough matches, I'd get on a plane, go to Russia, go to Ukraine, and trust me, you'll find what you're looking for. For me, that's been the case for 15, 20 years now, easily, there are certain hotspots of arm wrestling talent around the world. Turkey, Bulgaria, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Russia, Ukraine. You know, I can name more, but I think if you're looking at those countries, are you appealing more to the purist arm wrestlers who want to know, look, this guy's just the best, and sort of Western Europe, North America, and all the rest of the countries are kind of like that show pony environment where it's a bit more spit and sawdust and a bit more, I'm going to say, easier to watch, a more entertainment-based or entertainment-focused approach. And on social media, that sells better than that Eastern European purist thing. How do you see that, Ray? And what do you think how do the Eastern Europeans perceive that?
It's exactly like it is. It's exactly like it is. The Eastern Europeans, I believe now, when they see this dawn of social media, they want to get part of it. They want to be in it, you know, but the language barrier is one of the biggest things. If you don't speak English, most of the world will not understand you. And most of the world will not buy you. That's the difference, you know. There are a lot of guys from Ukraine, from Russia, that you will never hear about. That's legitimately best in the world. But they don't care. They really want to know who is the better arm wrestler. So they go to WAF World Championships, to Europeans, and in my opinion, two of the toughest tournaments there is. And, you know, they win there and they go home, and that's where it ends. And, you know, social media brings light, this is my opinion. I know so many guys that I would not be considering pros or elites, not even little, and they have the spotlight of pros and elites where they got it just because of one video, you know, and we see this over and over again. And I believe what Ryan is saying, you have to take your own future into your own hands. Like, no one will know you're this amazing arm wrestler if no one talks about you, if you don't show it. Mm-hmm. So make an Instagram account. You don't have to do YouTube stuff. You don't have to become a little bit of parody when you're trying to make what's trending, you know, making clickbaity things. You can stay true to yourself. I believe I did that. I stayed true to myself. I wanted to be educator. That's what I went through, and that's what I did, and I didn't change, you know. We joke at some points, but you will not find parody on my videos. You will not find, you know, something clickbaity on my videos. You know, just a little bit to get the viewers watching for some thumbnails. But it's and people believe that clickbaity is the way. I don't believe it's the way. I believe you show it your way, and people will follow. And now I see more and more like. Poland and Ukraine and Russia, and guys are trying to do these things. They're trying to build their own brands, and it's really working. And if you are, like, imagine if you are, I don't know, Oguzhan Kochak, you know, the 100-kilo WAF world champion, looked like incredible, like indestructible. And if you start doing something like that, you build your brand much, much, much faster. We know that. So the top guys need to, but not everyone's like it. And I see big parallels with UFC. UFC guys, everyone, like for 10 years, everyone's crying, I'm underpaid. I'm underpaid. They don't pay me enough, you know, these bills and that bills. And then they start doing YouTube channels. They start doing their own brands and things like that. And they'll live nice, because world doesn't own you anything. That's the big part you need to understand. No one owes you anything. You have to go and take it. And when you see someone being successful, don't believe that as soon as you step in, they will give you the same treatment as they did for them. No, you do like Michael does. Michael like jump into this YouTube game hard, and he's doing a lot of stuff, and perfect. That's how you build a brand. That's how you rise your, like, everyone hates Michael because of the King's Move, but they're hating him less when they see him as a human. Yeah. And that's the best scenario you can do. You shouldn't go around the other way and start saying like, yeah, beat that, I don't give a, you know. but he just like, he shows how he is. He loves arm wrestling. He goes on arm wrestles and things like that. And Devon did it better than anyone. So I believe everyone should be at least in some way. If you want to see legitimate, like long-term in the sport, when when you can get some money, have some privileges, some benefits from it, then you need to do it. You don't need to do it if you don't want it. That's the big part. If you don't want it, you don't do it.
The biggest point on motivation for anyone who's considering doing this is if there was a crystal ball, like most people arm wrestle because they just love it. We're not paid to do it. Most people, 99.9% are just loving the sport. So if you're in that category, make all of your recreational time, instead of it being watching the football, make it about creating content that you genuinely enjoy. If you had the crystal ball that said after 4.5 years of you doing that, it would be a career for you and you'd stop working.
You will be WL. Yeah.
You would do it. You would just be like, yes, because you were going to do it anyway because you love it and it's your hobby. So just stick a camera in your face and document that process. And then all of a sudden you get there. Like I had 4.5 years. I said 4.5 because that was me. For the first 4.5 years, I didn't have a video with more than 50 views on it. And yet I put out just as much content back then as I do now. And it was because I enjoyed it. And I knew that, look, the only way to refine your skills to get it to the point where you're actually able to have a production level decent enough is to practice. And for me, it's the same thing. There might be 100 awkward videos between starting and having a career. So rack up those awkward videos as fast as you can.
And Ryan, I think like to touch on what Neil said, to bring it kind of full circle. I know you're delving into like paid training sessions and stuff now, and I truly believe that you offer potentially more value in private seminars on exactly what you're talking about. Like this information that you're putting out right now is basic, right? But that's the information that you should be giving out one-on-one for a couple bucks.
Yes.
Because you got all these fringe arm wrestlers who are really, really good, but they can't seem to brand themselves. Me personally, I didn't cognitively intentionally do it. It just kind of happened with exactly what you're saying. I'm putting stupid videos of myself, pulling amateur classes and whatever in the beginning, and then me doing a bunch of training stuff completely wrong, and really heavy, and it starts to catch on. And you do it without knowing you're doing it. But when you reverse engineer that, and you can now provide that to somebody else who's on the fringe, I think that's mega. And then like Ray, what you're talking about, like Eastern Europe and stuff, and people getting on like kind of that bandwagon, I'm seeing more and more of it. I'm learning more and more about the Eastern Europeans through social media now when I'm finding them and tracking what they're doing. But one of the interesting contrasts to that, and I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. And I talked to Artem Taranenko, Top Roll King, and Alex at Arm Wrestling TV. And the other interesting thing, like when it comes to like branding and making money off of arm wrestling itself, the CPM in YouTube is quite a bit different for those Eastern European countries, right?
Yeah.
I know Artem said that until he switched to English speaking, went away from the subtitles and focused on English speaking, his ad revenue went up. So I think it's an unfair playing field when it comes to those guys in Eastern Europe. They kind of have the deck stacked against them. Like they're the superior arm wrestlers and nobody's arguing that. But yet it's so much harder for them to actually make it a career.
I believe my ad revenue is 4 times lower than Ryan's with more views. Yeah. Just because the more Europeans are watching me because I have this amazing accent.
Yeah, but the beauty of your brand, though, and like you touched on, the beauty of your brand is that you are not doing that clickbait stuff, and it's like you're not going after viral videos. It's like you're just putting out content that people are going to be able to reuse or learn from. And Ryan takes so much heat. And I mean, I criticize a lot of his opinions myself and don't agree with a lot of them. And, I've said send messages to him, stop feeding the trolls. And, his messages back are, this is my full-time job. Maybe it's like, hey, maybe I'm doing it for a reason. you know, but you gotta take your hat off to what Ryan does, because it's always controversial. And honestly, knowing how to say the right thing, whether it be controversial or maybe it stirs things up, I think that is the value that you could offer to some of these guys, Ryan. It really is.
Yeah, well, what I love most about it is that there's going to be a next John Brzenk. There's going to be a next Michael Jordan equivalent for our sport, whatever. I really hope that person documents their whole journey from the beginning. Because could you imagine what it would be like if we had the training footage of John from when he was 13 through to him becoming a GOAT? Like, we all love to ask John, we love to ask Gang, we love to ask anyone that's been all the way to the top, how'd they get there? And so far, we don't have anyone that's truly become the man in the world that you can go back and look at how they actually did do it. So I encourage, if you are one of those purist arm wrestlers from Russia, from Ukraine, Georgia, wherever, and you don't think you have a chance to build a brand, but you do think you can become world champion, do it anyway, because once you get to the level of world champion, the floodgates will open and everyone will look at all the shit you did for the last 6 years that made you world champion. And the cream will come. It really will. Even if you're speaking Russian and you don't say an English word once, it will still happen. If Alexei Voivoda had have done that in his early years, he's probably the most premier one. But imagine if he had even more of his story. So, don't ever be discouraged by the fact that no one's watching now, because they will.
And that's like one of the United States parallels. Like, I mean, it's so easy to look at the United States and say, oh, those egotistical bastards, all they care about themselves and blah, blah, blah. And we're so much better in Europe. And I'm sitting here, I'm not arguing with
you. It's not there going.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you, Angan. I realize the talent in Eastern Europe, but the problem is the cross pollination of legitimacy, right? So the United States, we have so much multimedia, so it's easier in the United States for faces to get out and for personalities to get out and things like that. But we need the cross pollination, and in order to have that, we have to have Eastern Europeans, almost forcing their relevancy on the United States fan base, and kind of vice versa.
It's actually something personally that I desperately want to do. It's very high on my priority list, is to go to somewhere, I don't care where, somewhere in Eastern Europe with a camera and visit clubs in Russia or something like that. That for me, I want to group up with people I've never heard of before and go, holy shit, you're kicking my ass.
Right.
Wow, okay.
Right.
I want to.
You do, of course.
He goes back home, and I think those videos are unbelievable, But those are a glimpse into the things that us as Americans a lot of times don't get to see. Like, we want to see it, like Igor's videos. I love watching them, even though we do, you got to subtitle it, you got to read it and everything. But that's a glimpse into what we don't see.
Show us, God.
Show us.
I mean, it's what I love about that whole Eastern European mystique. Number one, it's that in itself. Let's be honest. We talked earlier on about the sort of crossover. I think some of it is that there's this there's an international perception of Eastern Europeans all being the same type of athlete. You know what I mean? It's like all of them are Ivan Drago, aren't they? Everybody's that believably,
crush you.
Yeah, cold as hard face and stuff. And they're always sold in as that. And then you go over and you meet Vitaly Lalatin, and he is not that guy. I mean, I have no idea what that dude's saying, but he's just a top bloke. An absolutely wonderful bloke. Really, really fun. Clearly a really light-hearted guy. You know what I mean? When you speak to Levon Saganashvili, I mean, let's be honest, the guy looks...
Yeah, he's a teddy bear.
But he literally is a super big, jovial, friendly mother fluffer. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't like him to pop up at the end of my bed in a dimly lit room, you know what I'm saying?
He made my day at Zolita. Like, we were in Germany waiting for 8 hours for our last connection or something, and And we just put a photo on Instagram of just waiting in the airport. Next minute I get a message from Levon saying, hey, I'm in the airport too, and comes and hangs out with me, Lachlan and Jordan. And we're like, this is great. I've never met him before, never spoken, and he was the loveliest guy ever. Even with the language barrier that we had, he was dead.
And the weird thing is, when he's sold in internationally, because of the way he looks, he's sold in as this hard-faced, rugged. And it's kind of difficult because you can't tell what he's saying. The decision-making around how we're going to market this guy, what's his character going to be? Well, I don't know. Let's go with Ivan Drago. You always go with the same friggin' look, don't they? All Eastern Europeans, cold, hard-faced dude. And they're not. It's just that we're not sure what they're saying a lot of the time. But I love that mystique that you get from the PAL video.
Back in the day, life was hard here, you know. It's not anymore. Europeans live in luxury.
How many times do you turn on a PAL video, right? And it's some reveal video, and Igor will come on there and, he'll say, here I am in gym in Ukraine, and I have assembled 20 men. All 20 of these men are absolutely strong as fuck. And then he begins to show you the guys that you knew and everybody knew were the strongest guys in the world getting manhandled by some other motherfluffer that you've never seen before. Look at that, this guy, Jim, and there's tons of them. And it's like, the message you take away from that is that the residual level in these countries, because of the way the sport is addressed culturally, the respect it's given, the focus of the athletes it's a level up in that respect, and they have a lot of bad motherfluffers, a lot of them. You only had to watch the training video with the Georgians the other week. Mm-hmm. How much would I pay to go train with those guys?
I would love to.
Oh my God!
What
an environment! Train with that. What is that? Talk about. If iron sharpens iron, you would come back ablaze, wouldn't you? Oh my God! The place was riddled with animals. Just mega.
Right, and the reality of it is it would answer a lot of questions about like the training here. We got so many people trained in so many different ways in the United States, and clearly we're not quite getting to that level. So I want to understand the formula. And those are kind of the things that interest me most. Like keep giving us glimpses into what you guys are doing in Europe. I want to see that. I was first introduced to Ray's stuff because of that style of training. And I started watching his videos because that was my interest, and the idea of like, if we want to level up here in the United States, I would love to have that content more readily available with the absolute most elite in Eastern Europe. It's harder to find though.
See, the interesting thing is that 85% of the viewing audience on social media tuned into and found Ray stuff because they thought,
is that a 9-year-old boy bench pressing 200 kilos?
All of them has a Scottish accent, yeah.
Mate, you told us that longer that hair gets.
I want to touch on one more thing. What we started with these matchups that don't happen, which should happen, and promotion involvement. I believe the way to go is what boxing is doing. The one promotion, let's say PAL says, okay, we're gonna make this match. We're gonna make Michael and Levin. So, but they shouldn't be thinking about high production. They can put on few cameras, post it on. Let's say do it a pay-per-view. Make a agreement with WL, so they're giving us your athlete. You help us with promoting, and we will give you like 30-20% of the revenue. We will do everything else, and then you pay your athlete, and we do our thing, because everyone sees money. Like, remember when McGregor first got his, I think, $1 million for a match. He's like, I'm not gonna getting paid less, they're gonna make money off of me. So the same way goes for arm wrestlers. If Levin wins $50,000, he's not looking to pull for anything less, because it would be waste if he pulled for anything less One is this pride and who is better and anything, but there's still, someone's gonna make money off of it. Why shouldn't it be the athletes, or at least promotion is paying the athletes for doing it? Mm-hmm. Because someone's gonna make money, We're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna have some revenue for it. Someone's gonna repost it, and they're gonna have revenue for it. So I think the best scenario would always be the boxing, like what the box is doing. Because there are few promotions, just PL has great infrastructure if they want to do it here. WL has great infrastructure if they want to do it there. Just, make some kind of deal and make it happen. You don't have to have it cool arena or something. You can do it in a closed room with one one, I don't know, one producer for it, referee, and that's it.
Yeah.
Good COVID restrictions, everything. Do it. You can post it live. You can do it on YouTube channel if you want it. If you can do, there's just so many ways to do it.
You can do a pay-per-view. You can do a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I don't know how much a $5 pay-per-view would sell.
$5 for one match. I would watch that match.
Me too.
I've already done that exact thing for my channel. At the moment, I've created on my YouTube channel. There's a $1.95 monthly subscription that will have any super match that I do will be live on there. So, and it'll still come out post edit. But if you want to see it live, that's where it's going to be. And as your brand,
Ryan. Okay.
Yeah.
Concept to build your brand. For a guy who's out there and you are not affiliated to the World Arm Wrestling League and you are not affiliated to the Professional Arm Wrestling League or any other major promotion, right? So you get yourself out there. If I'm a young man again and I'm having my time over and I rate myself, this is what I'm thinking.
Yep.
You're going to take a lot of crap in the interim period because nobody's going to believe in you.
Yep.
But this is the thing, right? You go out there and you're going to go out and you're slaying dragons. I am Monster Hunter. And I get on the road with any spare time I get, and I seek out the most horrible, obnoxious bastard I can possibly find in or around my weight class in all corners of the world.
Yep.
And I go over there and I take souls. So I'm going over there and I'm arm wrestling. Somebody tells me there's some urban legend in that area about a dude that's the man. I want to go out, I want to find that guy, I want to contact that guy and say, right, I'm coming to arm wrestle you. Are you up for it? Set the whole thing up, film it, get it done, put that out there. And once you start trying to get to some of the guys who are upper echelon arm wrestlers, it doesn't have to be Prudnik. There's enough arm wrestlers out there that are of a pedigree that are recognised as being, let's say, for example, you went over and you said to Engin Terzi, Engin's at the end of his career. And he's not focused on pulling anymore. But if you went out to Engin and you said, look, I'll give you $1,000 to arm wrestle me, and you've got 3 months to train, and you can go out and do something with Engin, there is no doubt that you will have the world's attention.
Yeah.
Because
that
Engin might be old.
That is my model. That is 100% my model. I did that from the grassroots level. I did that pulling local people in my area, pulling state people, pulling national people, pulling Justin Bishop was the first time I ever went international. Then I've done it, with Bottom 8, I've done it with Chance Shaw, I've done it with Dan Mosier. That is the easiest model for any individual to climb the ranks of legitimacy. So many people wait in the queue saying, hey, I'm good enough for WAL, why don't I get a call? Screw that. Take charge of your own ladder climb.
Yeah,
and
they will call.
That's the thing. They will call when you start climbing your own ladder.
But you have, the thing about it is too, that we're not really talking about is you have to have some level of self-confidence to be able to get in front of a camera. Whether you're talking or not, you gotta be able to be comfortable in the moment, competition-wise, with the spotlight on you. And I personally don't like that. I don't like taking pictures. In my character, I do not like it. I do not like to be in front of a microphone. As a player in other sports, I did not like to be interviewed. I shied away from it. But it was something that I had to mature into as a human being, through a few public speaking classes and things like that. Guys, if you want to have that, you have to develop the self-confidence to do it and to put yourself out there. And you're only going to get better with it the more you do it. But if you don't have it, then you can't complain.
Ray, on the other hand, early age, weighing 67 kilos, out in the woods, top off. Yep, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Now then, that brings us to 55 minutes into this show, and we've got a limited time period this evening with Mr. Paul Linn having to go to work, so we're going to wrap it up there and wait for the comments to explode and call us all dicks. Or call Ryan a dick, even though it's something that one of us said.
Always in trouble.
The fall guy.
Whatever Ryan said, we don't like it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I can't believe I made a comment. I called Kyle Hutchinson the super heavyweight British national champion. And he did it, and I said he did a great job against Khaled. And I got crucified. Somehow the comment section was saying that I was saying I'm better than Kyle. I'm like, where the hell did that come from? I called him the British super heavyweight national champion, and he did well against Khaled. That's it. That's all I said.
So to wrap this concept up, guys, if there's anything that you don't like that was said on this entire podcast, it was 100% Ryan, and none of us agree with it.
That's true. Ryan. All Ryan. Ladies and gentlemen, this wraps up episode 41 of The Fix. If this is your first visit to Supernatural Strength, please do us a favour. Like, share and subscribe. Put it out there, guys. And we will see you back here on episode 42. Till that time, ladies and gents, take it easy, peeps.